When we hear about mummies, the first thing that comes to our mind usually are the ancient Egyptian mummies discovered inside pyramids. While the Egyptians may have the most famous mummies, they're not the oldest. The Tashwinit mummy discovered in Libya predates the earliest Egyptian mummies by almost 1,000 years, and the Chinchorro mummies from Chile predate them by at least 2,000 years. Thus, other civilizations have been mummifying their dead long before the Egyptians did. But now, a recent discovery has found ancient mummies that are even older than the oldest Chinchorro mummies. New research suggests that the world's oldest mummies actually come from Southeast Asia and are up to 10 to 12,000 years old. Discovered in 2025, the mummies were examined by researchers in their graves in southern China, the Philippines, Laos, Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia. During examination, they noticed that many of the bodies were bound in tightly crouched or squatting positions, and that the remains looked burnt like they were smoked over bonfires. The 4,000 to 12,000-year-old graves didn't contain any evidence of fire, which indicated the corpses were intentionally exposed to heat for extended periods of time before being buried. Scientists used non-destructive techniques like X-ray diffraction and infrared spectroscopy to examine the bones, some of which had been heated to more than 900 degrees Fahrenheit. These tests revealed that the skeleton's discoloration was caused not by direct combustion, as seen in cremation, but exposure to a low oxygen and smoky environment. Thus, researchers concluded that many of the bodies were smoke-dried, meaning they were arranged in crouched postures before being propped over or positioned near a fire to slowly dehydrate. This process deliberately preserved and mummified the remains. It is suggested that the remains belonged to multiple nomadic hunter-gatherer groups that occupied Southeast Asia in Paleolithic times. This suggests that this method of mummification was a widespread ancient tradition. As groups started to migrate and populate new territories, their beliefs and traditions also spread across vast areas in southern Asia, possibly Northeast Asia, Australia, and New Guinea. One possibility that the mummies were smoked and bound was done so that the people could carry the mummies of revered ancestors around. Researchers also believe that smoking likely carried spiritual, religious, or cultural meanings that went far beyond simply slowing decay. The practice allowed people to maintain physical and spiritual connections with their ancestors, allowing the deceased to remain part of the community. The graves examined for the study contained only bones, no skin or hair. Smoke drying would have preserved the remains' softer tissue, helping to keep bones from falling apart, but only for a few decades or centuries. That's because the corpses, unlike Egyptian mummies, were not sealed in containers. Corpse smoking was widespread among different cultures throughout time. The Kabayan mummies, or fire mummies, for example, were created by the Ibaloi people of Philippines by a similar smoking process and date back as early as 2000 BCE to 1500 CE. The remarkably preserved mummies are found in natural limestone caves in Benguet, Philippines, and are often covered in intricate tattoos. The tradition is far from a thing of the past, however, as it is still practiced today among many indigenous communities in Australia and Papua New Guinea. The Dani people mummify bodies by binding them tightly, then smoking them until they're black. Researchers believe that these people are continuing an ancient tradition that migrating humans introduced to the area long ago. The fact that smoke-dried mummification spread across such a vast area and endured for more than 12,000 years among indigenous groups is remarkable. Exactly how and why the smoking ritual began remains unclear. Practitioners may have discovered the process by accident and mastered it over time. What is clear is that the practice prolonged the visible presence of the deceased, allowing ancestors to remain among the living in a physical way, a touching reflection of enduring human love, memory, and devotion.